Okay guys, so let's talk about last night's episode of Deception, which was really, really, really good. Like, the show just keeps getting better and better, and like, I loved last week's episode, and I just feel like this week, like, we're just building towards the season finale, and fingers crossed, as always, that this show might get a second chance. So one kind of big thing that I want to talk about, that I feel like I got from this episode, is that I really believe that the whole Lyritrol business and Vivian's murder are like two separate things. Like, basically for the longest time, I feel like we've all been under the assumption that they, you know, had something to do with one another, that Vivian was gonna blow the whistle, so therefore somebody had her killed. But now, you know, that things are starting to come out, it's like, it's starting to look like Vivian's death had absolutely nothing to do with Lyritrol, and that there's something else dastardly going on in the Bowers family. So we're gonna find that out, hopefully next week. Yeah, we are gonna find out who killed her next week. Now, for all you Jolien or J&J fans out there, this episode definitely kicked off, you know, in the right place for you. We are, you know, kind of like in the afterglow of Julian and Joanna, and they're in bed together, and there's kissing and snuggling and all kinds of stuff like that. Now, poor Will, you guys, because even though Will drives me batty most of the time, I must say, all I kept thinking during this episode was, when's she gonna tell Will? And just how that's gonna crush him, man. It's not gonna be good for him. And pretty much that was it. He was not happy, and he fires her, you guys. And you totally get that. I totally get why he fired her. Like, he told her, like, you have no objectivity, and you've basically compromised your testimony in this case. So you're fired, get on a plane, and go back home. But of course we know Joanna's not gonna do that, because we know that she's really kind of gonna see this through. She wants to know who killed her best friend, so she's gonna stick around to figure that out. I must say, speaking of Will and Julian, I absolutely loved the little scene that the two of them had together, right? So as the episode progresses, you know, Edward finally calls Julian to tell him, look, Audrey is the culprit. Audrey is the one who killed Vivian, and she's the one who planted the really bad Lyritrol information. So you see the boys go into the FBI to see Will, and that's how we get our, you know, Will and Julian scene, which was just fantastic, because it's after Will learns that Julian has slept with Joanna, and there was just so much subtext and tension. I mean, it was fantastic. Now if we could just get a scene where we see Will, Julian, and Joanna, I just might lose my mind. So maybe that will happen in next week's episode. Now let's talk about Robert's first wife, Catherine, right? Because in last week's episode, we all of a sudden got this little hint, because we had this flashback scene between Robert and Haverstock, where we get that Haverstock covered something up to make it look like this car accident was the reason she died. So then the big question is, how did she really die? So in this episode, you know, Robert is still trying to pressure Joanna's mom into really kind of giving up some sort of information about what Joanna's really doing there. And he just presses her, really. I mean, it was just kind of like the gloves came off. And she finally just said to him, like, what do you want, Robert? And he tells her, I want you to tell me what Joanna's really doing here. And, you know, Mom does a great job. Like, she does a great job, A, defending herself, and being like, look, I don't know what you're talking about. But then Robert tries to be like, you know, what if the police found out about what really happened to Catherine and that you had something to do with that? You know, you could still be prosecuted. And my theory is that Catherine had ALS. They mentioned that in last week's episode, which is a devastating disease. So my theory is that she asked Joanna's mom to kill her. That it was kind of like a euthanasia type of thing, that she asked her to, like, help me end my life so I don't have to suffer. I don't want to suffer anymore. Now, my feeling is that Catherine probably asked Robert first, but he refused, and then Joanna's mom, you know, she didn't refuse, so she did help her. And I think what happened is that Robert needed to cover it up, because maybe if her death was a suicide, he wouldn't have inherited the money. So, you know, I don't know, it's a bit of craziness there, but that is the poppy theory of what happened. Robert was just kind of on the warpath this week. You could tell that he's like coming unglued just a bit. Like, he really wants to figure out what Joanna's doing. And we also get that this other drug company, Kirshner Sims, is now coming to try to, like, do a takeover of Bowers Pharmaceutical. And Robert's not having it. But at the same time, it's like you also get that he really feels like he suspects that Joanna is working with Kirshner Sims, and that's why he's in this place that he's at. And then, oh, he was so cruel to Edward. my favorite Deception character. So Edward goes to see his dad to kind of apologize for the whole press conference thing, now that he realizes that that information was false. And Dad is not having any of it. I mean, it was just kind of crazy because I think Robert knows that Edward suspected him. And so Robert's just kind of like, I'm not the murderer, you're the murderer. And gives him the golf club, you know, that supposedly killed Kimberly Yeager. And it was sad and cruel and just like, you know, get over yourself. What kind of dad does that? And then Edward did something that I just knew he was going to always do. He turns himself in. So he takes the golf club to Will, tells him, this is the evidence, this is the murder weapon for the Kimberly Yeager case, arrest me. And so he gets arrested. Now the good thing and the weird thing is in the end, it turns out that there's no evidence on this golf club. There's blood on it, but it's not human blood, it's like animal blood. There's no prints. So I think Haverstock basically played them the whole time. And I don't think Edward really had anything to do with Kimberly Yeager's death, because Eddie Spaghetti would never do that, people. So now let's talk about the FBI and this horrible investigation. I mean, like, these people are the worst investigators in the world, you guys. Will decides that his only recourse now is to put a wire on Julian and send him in to get a confession from Audrey. Really? Like, why don't we bring her in and show her the evidence we have and get a confession out of her that way? No, he wants to send Julian in. So Julian, of course, is all for it, because at this point he wants to kill Audrey, basically. So he lets them put a wire on him. He's gonna go in because they know that Audrey's getting ready to leave the country. She's booked a ticket to go to, like, Morocco or something like that. And they find this information out from our neighborhood tabloid reporter, Nicole, who, of course, won't let this case die. And Nicole, you guys, I just wanted to... I wanted to yell at my screen, right? Because right before Julian shows up, who should show up to Audrey's house but Nicole? And she's asking questions about Lyritrol and Kirshner Sims. And you could just tell from the look on Audrey's face, she's like, come in. And then she locks the door behind her. And I'm just thinking like, oh, this idiot girl. Sure enough, when Julian shows up, wearing his wire, and they start talking, Julian notices a drop of blood on the floor. And so he asks her, like, what's that on the floor? Basically, he follows this trail of blood to the closet where he finds Nicole's body. She's not dead, but she's been stabbed or beaten or something, I don't know. So Julian freaks out and starts to just like yell at Audrey, like, who else did you kill? Did you kill Remy? Did you kill Vivian? And Audrey's just like, nobody was supposed to die and all this stuff. Now, the other thing, too, is Will is an ass, right? Because his partner's like, we need to go in. We need to go now. And Will's like, wait, he's gonna get the confession. And all I'm thinking is, dude, go save him. Like, she's gonna kill him. And sure enough, Audrey picks up, like, a screwdriver and stabs him in the back before the dumb FBI shows up, finally, right? Then, like, in an interesting little twist, we saw Robert come to the FBI earlier to talk to Will, and he ended up talking to Will's partner, Denton, I think his name is. Basically, we get, by the end of the episode, we get that Robert paid this guy to kill Audrey. Like, basically, like, this woman killed my daughter, so if you're in on the takedown and you can kill her, I want you to. And he, like, pays him to do that. And sure enough, basically, Denton shoots her, and he didn't need to. He's all like, she's reaching for a gun, and he shoots her. And then Will is just like, what did you do? Like, there is no gun, you idiot. Now, it's this and a few other things that really kind of put Robert Bowers back on my #1 suspect list. It really, really does. I think at this point, it's between Robert and Haverstock. As far as who killed Vivian. I mean, those to me are kind of the #1 suspects. Why does he feel the need to quiet Audrey? Because it's like he feels like the FBI thinks Audrey killed Vivian. Let's leave it like that. Let's not give Audrey the chance to defend herself for that murder. So, I don't know. Now, of course, we suspect Haverstock because of the whole, like, psychiatrist tapes. So let's backtrack a little. Mia, at one point during the day, decides to go see Vivian's psychiatrist, and she's talking to him. He's filming her, and she's, like, freaked out by that. She has a bit of a rough day, right? She, like, goes back to the motel where Vivian's body was found, and ends up at some, like, really kind of, like, low down and dirty party there at the motel with this guy. So she ends up calling Joanna, and Joanna comes to get her. And they end up talking a little bit, and basically Joanna gets out of her the fact that she went to see the psychiatrist and that it was Vivian's psychiatrist and that he tapes his sessions. So Joanna goes to the psychiatrist and is like, why haven't you turned these tapes over? And you get that this guy was writing a book is why he was keeping them. So he turns them over to Joanna and she watches them, and the big shocker that we get from watching Vivian talk is that she was still dating Senator Haverstock. Like, even after, it wasn't just when she was 16, but that she had been still dating him and that she was afraid of him, that she was afraid to tell him it was over because she was scared of what he was going to do. The other little clue, right? Like, let's go back to the motel. The other little clue that I thought was interesting, because I feel like when you watch TV, they don't show you stuff unless it means something. And there was a bit in the scene where Joanna comes to rescue Mia from this motel, and she's with this guy in the bathroom. And she pulls this guy off of Mia and pushes him up against the wall, right? And then they flash to this guy's tattoo. They show us this guy's tattoo. And it says Carpe Diem on his arm because she yanks his arm up behind his back. And then Joanna also takes his wallet because she's just like, I'm taking your wallet if you try to come after us because I'm going to know who you are type of thing. But I was wondering why they showed us that. Like, does he know something? Because does he live at this motel? Did he see something? I think that he's probably going to come into play in next week's episode. The other kind of shocking thing is, this guy from last week who's been following Edward, we see him kind of lurking around in this episode. So basically this guy is at Edward's house, waiting for him, like standing in front of the elevator with his gun ready to shoot. The elevator opens and he just shoots without even looking, and it's Samantha. It's not Edward. And so he kills Edward's wife. This really bad assassin does. So obviously somebody's trying to kill Edward, and then that makes me wonder why. I mean, is that a Robert move? Is Robert doing that because he's pissed at Edward? I don't know. So my thought is, why kill Edward? Why is Edward all of a sudden the target? That I'm not sure of. Oh, and let's not forget to talk about Wyatt, because Wyatt is out of jail because of Haverstock. And he's really kind of coming after Sophia, and there's this moment between them where she, gives him the money that she'd been saving up for the two of them. Because obviously the original plan was for her to go marry this fat cat, this rich guy, and then once he got out of jail, they'd have money and they'd be able to go off together. But she doesn't want to leave her family now. I think she really does love Robert. She loves her daughter, of course. And so she doesn't want to leave. And so she gives him the $3 million, the money that she was saving up for them. And I just don't feel like Wyatt is done. Like, we're not done with him. I have a feeling he's going to be showing back up to really kind of torment her. And really, is that a motive for Sophia to have killed Vivian is the question. I mean, would she have killed her to kind of keep everything quiet about Wyatt? Because obviously she doesn't think Robert knows about that, even though I think he probably does. Now, in honor of the fact that next week is the season finale, and perhaps the series finale, I think it's time for us to do a live deception chat. So I'm looking at doing that on my channel sometime next week. I'm thinking after the finale. So if you guys are interested in coming on air with me and talking about deception, reach out to me and let me know, and we'll see what we can kind of get together. And then, I'll be posting more information once I get some more solid details together. Okay, you guys, that is it for me today. As always, thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. I want to hear your theories of who you think killed Vivian. And I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.